Let us wait for a few more minutes for more people to join. I hope I'm audible. Please indicate in the chat if I'm audible or not. Okay, thank you very much. So yeah, let's wait for a few more minutes because people are yet to join and we can start the class after that. Okay, there's some question in the chat regarding something, so let me just quickly look at it. Okay, reevaluate question 13 of assignment 9. Okay, share my screen maybe. Mm, question 13 of assignment 9. Okay, I'm just sharing my screen. Yeah, okay. So, shortest path between two nodes is this. Given this, what is shortest path of Alice Charlie? So it can be Alice Bob to Charlie. But what is the chat? What is the issue? Alice Bob Charlie and Alice David Charlie, as described by the graph creation, both B and C are valid steps. So let's look at it. Mm. So we can easily find out the answer by just running this, right? So okay, before I go into this question, so yeah, I can see more people have joined. So essentially, there's some question in the chat about one question from the previous week's assignment regarding networks, and there is some issue in the marking scheme, if I understand correctly. Now, one important thing to note here is that, as I have said previously, I am not a NPTEL person. So I am not in charge of setting the assignments or correcting the assignments. But what we can do is we can check what the answer is and we can check if it makes sense. And then based on that, you can talk to again, you can raise this in the discussion forum. And I'm sure that the team who is in charge of the assignments, they will take the correct rectification if needed. So let's try to do this now. So I don't think I have here first, right here. Okay, so I don't think I have this NX module in my Python. So let's network X. So first, let me go to Python 3, or wait, 3. I'm just installing this module first. Oh, okay. I already have it. Okay, fine. I thought I didn't have it. Cool. So let's go to Python 3, import network X as NX. Okay, cool. So now what is it? G13, right? G is equal to NX dot graph. Okay, let's see. So I'm just going to say AB, okay, instead of Alice, Bob, and all. So let's just put it as AB, uh, B, uh, C, sorry, and C, D, and finally A, comma, D again, right? I think this is correct. So let's just check. Opening bracket, square bracket, A comma B, B comma C, C comma D, A comma D, and then all the brackets are closed. Okay, so now we have to just run this prompt. Oh, sorry. I should write it as A and C, not Alice and Charlie, because in my case I didn't write it. Okay, so it looks like the shortest path is A, B, C. So I think that A, B, C is the answer as is indicated here. I think that so I'm not an expert, but I think the issue here is that, although it looks like Alice, David, Charlie could work, it's important to note that it's not David, Charlie, it's Charlie, David. I think the order matters here. So that is why that this one is not a valid answer. It's only this which is a valid answer. And that was what I was thinking, but I wanted to confirm it by running it. And as you can see, I've just run it. Just ignore the error that came up in between. But if I run it, I can actually get the shortest path to be ABC. So that means that ABC, what they have marked, is actually the correct answer. Is that fine? Does that clarify your question? Or okay, good, fine. Okay, I think people have joined. We can move on to the actual class. So, hi everyone, welcome again. We are almost at the end of this Python course. We are in week, sorry. Yeah, we are in week 10 of our Python course, 12-week course. So by now you have very much been familiar with how these sessions work. But in case people are tuning in for the first time, my name is Zenia. I take these problem solving sessions essentially to supplement the video material that you already have access to. And we this is mostly a hands-on live session, and the purpose of this session, at least according to me, is to give you some time to actually have some hands-on practice with solving assignment questions and programming, so that when you do your actual assignments and quiz questions, it becomes easier for you. So this is also the forum to clear your doubts. Like one of your friends had a doubt about one of the assignment questions, so we had cleared it. Of course, as I've said multiple times, I'm not in charge of correcting the assignments or setting the assignments or correcting the exam, setting the exam. So I don't know about the format, but again, we can verify Python doubts together, like how we verified this question right now. So I have my mail ID which I have shared with you every week. So if you have any doubts, you can mail me. Sometimes the mail goes to my spam folder. So if I have missed anything, I'm really sorry. But please raise it in the class, and just like how we discuss now, we can just easily discuss it. Apart from that, all the slides and programs and recordings of the sessions that we have been discussing are all available to you. I maintain this link on my website where you can find all the relevant materials. So this is the link basically. So here you can see that you can find the YouTube playlist where all the recordings of the classes so far have been placed, and also the slides of the sessions are present here. And you can see that it's not only the slides, but it's also the programs which have been discussed every week. So this is the important thing to keep in mind. Usually our classes are on Monday, but yesterday I had a prior commitment, so I'm sorry to reschedule the class. But thank you again, all of you, for joining today. So without much delay, let's go into today's material. So as I said, we are now reaching, towards the end of the class. So we are going into more and more specialized programs, because by now you are familiar with the data structures and techniques which are available in Python. So now, for the past few classes, we have been looking at specialized libraries like, Network X, which we just looked at, which is used for, graph construction. Then you also have, we've been looking at these picture image library and all these other specialized cases. This week you looked a little bit about NumPy. NumPy is actually very versatile and very important Python library, because NumPy is used in all kinds of data handling, especially in arrays and matrices. So yeah, NumPy you will find has a lot of application to almost any field that you have. As I said, one of the big plus points of Python is that it is an open source language, which means that anybody can contribute their own library to it. And for that reason, you will find that Python has libraries for almost anything. So I'm an astrophysicist, so I can tell you that Python has libraries like AstroPy, which are specifically made so that we can handle astrophysical data. NumPy is a little more general than that. NumPy is made for mostly handling arrays of data and doing various data handling techniques on it. A more advanced version of this is the library called Pandas, which is more used to deal with even larger amounts of data in CSVs and spreadsheets and so on. But NumPy is very good for data handling at this level. So whenever you encounter a new module in Python, what I would suggest is that you first itself go and find its documentation. So every library has a documentation page, and what is a good idea is to just simply just go through it. I'm not telling you to, read all of the documentation. That is not, of course, possible by any person. But you will find that, for example, NumPy has this very nice site where all the documentation is there. You can see that there's a beginner's guide, there's a user guide, which gives all kinds of uh, in-depth information. Beginner's guide only gives the main concepts. And if you ever have a doubt about what a particular function does, for example, there's this NumPy function that I use a lot called gen from text, right? So if I just search for it, you can find that, yeah, you can find that this is used to import data from a text file, for example. So you can see that if I go to the page, I can find out all the different aspects of it, like what are the different options that I can do when I run this file, and what it does, and there will also be some examples. So this is there for all of the functions which are there, and such a page exists for every library that you can think of. So I would say that, when you're actually, so for exams and for assignments, maybe you have to remember or memorize certain things. But again, in real actual programming which you will be doing, it will be more like you'll be looking up things. There'll be a few functions which you will be using frequently enough that you don't need to look it up, like, how to, various string functions may be coming very naturally to you. But these specialized functions, maybe you'll have to look up the exact, arguments and other things. So in this case, it's very easy or very convenient to know how to look at a documentation page. So, it's important not only to learn programming from, just by memorizing, but it's also important to know that there is a limit to how much you can memorize and where to look up things, right? So now people just look up things on, AI, Chat GPT, and other things. But I would say that it's still worth to go through documentation, because whenever you make a search for a particular concept in, using a large learning model tool like Chat GPT, you will get answers which are restricted to what you're looking for. Whereas when you look at a documentation page of a library, you can see all the functions, and you may be able to see related functions. You can see examples, so it becomes a better resource for you. It gives you a more whole picture. Okay, and it, because you are making the effort to search for something, it will be better absorbed to you. At least this is my style of learning about some new commands or new libraries. So if you find that it resonates with you, I would suggest that you do the same. Okay, fine. So let's so yeah, and then you also did programs on, data compression, Flames, the famous game that, people play in school. So these were what you saw in your lectures. So again, this is a slide I show in all of my classes on programming, not only in this course, but I have taught two other programming courses. I have shown it in that as well. The important thing to do is not only to write code, but you should write good code. So make sure that you choose some meaningful variable function names, use comments, use proper indentation, formatting, white space. In Python, this is important because without proper spacing, your code will throw syntax errors. But even if that was not the case, you should always use proper spacing. It just makes your code more readable. And just like how I showed you NumPy documentation, if you write a very complex program, it's always a good idea to have a README file or something along with it so that your future self will thank you. Essentially, when you do these things, if one day you want to use a program you wrote today, a year from now, you will not remember if the variable names are like ABC123 and all that stuff, right? So please give proper variable names and all that stuff. Okay. With that, I think we can go to the questions. So again, I'm not going into the details of the lectures materials because it's mostly straightforward this week. So I think it's better if we just go into solving the questions. As usual, I'll show the question. Please, all of you answer in the chat. I'll be monitoring the chat on the side. Yeah, the drive folder link. Okay, I can share the link of my website where all the links are present. So you can just go to my website's URL and you can find all the links. I'll share this again at the end. Okay, there is something about all shortest paths. Uh, should we try that? Okay, someone had regarding the previous question. Okay, let's see. Hmm. Maybe I got the syntax wrong. It just it's as an object, so maybe I have to print it. Sorry. Okay, list. Fine. I'm not very familiar with this library, so that's why I don't know. So let me just try this list. Okay, fine, fine, fine. So I see that if you put all shortest paths, you can see ADC as well. Hmm. But if I'm just giving, if I just give shortest path, which is what is there in the question, then I'm not getting that. So I wonder why that is. So let's do one thing. Let's go to Network X's documentation and see if we can figure this out. So the function is shortest path. Okay. Okay, so there is a note here that there may be more than one shortest path between a source and a target. This returns only one of them. Okay, so that is important. So let's try to understand this actually. Hmm. Okay, but let's just run this again and again. It will never give ADC. It's always giving only ABC. So I thought it's because of the directionality. Okay, let's try one thing. Okay, so instead of initializing the graph like this, let me just put C comma D, A comma D in the beginning. Okay, sorry guys, we'll get to the question soon. I don't know why this is happening and I now want to figure out. So let's put CD, comma, A, D. Okay, right. Now if I give shortest path, it's still ABC. So it's not about the I see 1, 2, 3, 1, 4, 3. Yeah, I see. So I guess if you give only so in the documentation itself, it's written there may be more than one shortest path. This returns only one of them. I thought it's just giving the first path which is there in the graph, but that's not also true because when I give A and D, C and D, and A and D first, also it's not happening. So maybe it's only giving if it's like this A, B, B, C kind of case. If you want to get these kinds of cases where it's A, D, and then D, comma C in the backwards direction, maybe we have to give all shortest paths. But the point is that in the question which was asked in your assignment, which is one sec, I can't access it. Okay, wait. This one, in this, it's not all shortest path, it is just shortest path. And shortest path, as far as I know, whenever I'm running it, I'm only getting ABC. So, in that sense, the answer is ABC or Alice, Bob, Charlie in this case. But yeah, I'm not very sure why that is. Maybe I am not very sure why that is. As far as I can see. Yeah, I also thought it's order in which it is added to the graph, but I changed the graph, right? To this way, and it still returned only A comma B comma C. So I thought that if I give C comma D, A comma D in the beginning, it will return A comma D comma C. That was my idea too. But even when I change the graph like this, it doesn't seem to. Or maybe I have to reinitialize it. What if I give F? Instead of using G, let's use F, right? Sorry, what is it? Is sorry, graph, capital G. And then let's just put this as F. Okay. So now you can see if you just look at the last three lines, I initialized a new graph where we had added edges. First, I gave C comma D, A comma, I mean Charlie comma whatever the D name is, David, and then Alice comma David, and then I gave the other way. So you can see that the idea is that shortest path will only return one of the shortest path, even if there are two equal ones. And that too, it will return the one which has appeared the first in the graph. So in the G graph, which I had initialized initially, it was ABBC, which was the first path. So it returned that. When I reinitialized F as a new graph, then you can see that CDAD was the first path. So it just returned that. So that is the important distinction is that whenever shortest path is used, then only the first shortest path which has arrived in which has been initialized in the graph will come. If you use all shortest paths like one of your friends suggested, then we can get all the shortest paths which are there in the system. So I hope this is clear now. So bottom line is this answer is still correct because for this particular system, the first shortest path is actually Alice Bob Charlie. So it will never return to me this Alice David Charlie. That is not a valid answer. Okay, good. Fine. So that was a nice diversion from the case, but let's go back to our questions now. So as usual, I hope that cleared it up. You can again discuss it with the relevant people on the discussion forum. Um, and then, yeah, let's basically do the questions now. I will give you the questions and please answer in the chat. Okay. So this is the first question. Which of the following statements is correct about Python's dynamic typing? Please put your answers in the chat. Okay, someone says B. Any other answers? Okay. One more B. Please, all of you answer in the chat. This does not have any calculation or anything, so you can answer immediately. Okay, I'll give one more minute in case people are still answering. Okay, fine. So far everyone has said B. So good, that is the correct answer. B variables type can change its runtime. So that is why Python has dynamic typing. So for example, in C or C++, you need to declare a variable before you use it. So you need to write something like int a is equal to something or character b is equal to something. And afterwards, if you try to change a into a character just like that, then it will throw an error. Whereas in Python, it's very flexible. You can declare a to be and you can just put a is equal to 10, and in the next line you can give a is equal to some hello or something, and they will not give an issue. So in this sense, Python is very flexible. But remember that these kinds of things are always double-edged swords, because that means careful with your variables. That's why again and again I keep telling you that give proper variable names, because this means that Python will not really throw an error if you suddenly change your variable name during the runtime. And if you do it by mistake, then it's difficult to trace the error, right? Because it will not show you an explicit error, but you will get an answer which is not expected by you. So because of this, what you have to do is you have to always, keep track of your variables by yourself, because Python is not going to do it itself, right? So that is the idea. Anyway, good. You guys got that correctly. Next question. What is the output of the following code? Again, put your answers in the chat. Okay, someone says C. Any other answers in the chat? Okay, two more C's in the chat. Any other answers? I can see three people have answered C. Okay, maybe we can go to the answer. So the answer is C. So again, people who answered, very good, you got it correct. So again, here it's just a matter of, this is simply indexing, which we have been doing since we have been learning lists. So here, remember that whenever you index or you take the range of something, the last index is not counted, right? So if you take 2 to 15, then the 15th element will not be counted. It will be just the 14th element. And also remember that since the counting starts from 0, the first this when I put 2, that's actually the third element. So let's try to just do the first few letters and see if the answer matches. Otherwise we can and then I'm sure you can do the rest of it yourself. So here what it is telling us is that from 2 to 15. Okay, okay, yeah, that's what I am explaining. So here we are taking, so this is called splicing a list, right? Where we are taking particular characters from the string and we are representing it. So here when I give 2, 15, 3, this is the starting index, this is the last index, and this is the step. Okay. So here the starting index is 2. Now in a string or in a list or in a tuple, any of these array kind of things, the indexing in Python always starts from 0. So that means that the element at index 2 will be 0, 1, 2. It will be the letter T. So the first letter that will come will be T, right? And then after that, I have to pick out every third letter until the 15th element. Okay, so let's see. 1, 2, 3, sorry, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. But remember, whenever I give 2 to 15, the 15th element itself will not be considered. It will only be till this. So basically, between T and I have to choose every third element. That's what this 3 means. This 3 is basically the step of like which element I have to take. So basically, after T, I have to take the third element. So this is the first element, this is the second element, this is the third element. So the first letter will be T because 2's are starting. The second element will be N because that is the third element after T. After N, again 1, 2, 3 will give me O. So you can see that T, N, O are the first three letters, right? And if you keep on doing this, you will get the entire thing. Okay, so I encourage all of you to see if all of the letters are correct. In these options, only one option starts with T and O, so I know that this is the correct answer. But please verify if exactly all of this is coming correctly. And also, if I don't give any numbers, like in the second part, to the string that is appended. If I don't give, then the default value is that the first and the last element are taken. So the whole string is taken and minus 4. Whenever you give some index or step size with minus, it just means that the indexing is done in reverse. So for example, this is the index minus 1, minus 2, minus 3, etc. So in this direction, if I am reading the string, it will be element 0, 1, 2, 3, etc. In this direction, it will be element minus 1, minus 2, minus 3, etc. Always element of minus 1 will give us the last element of a list. Okay, so yeah, I've just explained the basic funda of it and the first few elements, but please make sure if you have any doubts in this question, it's a very good idea to just sit down and see if all the letters match, right, with the option that we have. Okay, here's the next question. What is the output of the following code? Okay, someone says C. Okay, someone says B. Any other answers? Another C. Okay. Okay, we can go to the answer. So the answer is actually C. I think majority of you said C, which is correct. So here, what is important to note is that first of all, what is index? So S dot index will just return the index at which a particular element is there. So for here, the element is O. But as you can see here, there are two O's in this system, right? So there is one O in Python and there's one O in programming. That's where this 5 and 10 will play a role. So these numbers are optional. If you just give s dot index of O, it will just return the first instance. But if you give s dot index of these two numbers tell within between which two indices that we have to search for this element. So here, for example, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. O is fourth in element here. And then 5, 6, 7. Sorry. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So if we search between the fifth element and the 10th element, we can see that O is actually the ninth element. And that's why the answer is 9. Remember that the space is also an element. Okay. So don't miss to count that also. So does this make sense? Yeah, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Sorry. As I said, you have to always exclude the last element. So that is true in any of these kinds of range kind of questions in Python. Whenever you have a range or a, like splicing or index kind of thing, the last element will not be counted. You will always take last but one. Thanks for that. Okay. Okay, fine. There are no questions. Let's go to the next question. This is the next question. It's about find and index in Python. Which statement about find and index in Python is true? Okay, someone says C, B. One second, my chat is not updated. Okay, yeah. B, C, and B. Okay, someone says D. B and D. Okay, maybe let's go to the answer. Okay, so the answer is B. Here, find and index both do the same thing, which is search for a particular element in Python. But if index is there, index raises an error if that element is not there, whereas find returns -1. So this is the idea. I don't know if D is true for both of them. We can check this. Let's do a very quick check. First, let me select this. Uh, okay. So let's just give a string which is A, B, C, D, A. If I give S dot index of A, then it gives 0. If I give S dot find of A, it gives 0. So actually D is also a correct statement. So I don't know why that wasn't marked. So yeah, okay. So it looks like both of them return the first index of occurrence. So now if I give S dot index of, for example, Q, can see that it gives an error. Whereas if I give S dot find of Q, it gives -1. So this is what the B statement says. So that is why these two are the correct statement. Okay. Okay, fine. So let's go to the next question. I don't think there are any doubts in this. So these are both similar things, but they have different cases for when they have different ways in which they indicate that the element is not there. So find can be useful if you don't want the program to just stop because of an error. If you want to just have the program has a check, you can just put if find is less than 0, for example, that tells you that the element is not found. So otherwise, your program might stop because of the error if you use index. So this is the way that you think about programming, because many times you'll find that many functions do the same thing, but there will be small differences which are better used in some case or the other. That's what we have to keep in mind. Okay, here's the next question. What is the output of the following Python code? Okay, someone says D. Someone says D. Okay, fine. Okay, can see a lot of people saying D. Maybe we can go to the answer. So the answer is actually D. So I think by now we have used the modulus function enough times that you know that this basically gives you the reminder of the division of two numbers. Now here the important thing to note is that this is a negative number, right? So it's a little confusing to think of remainder or modulus in this case, at least for me. So the way in which I find it easy to think about is that we can just take the real or the non-decimal part of the quotient. So for example, if I do 17 by 5, I know that is, oh, sorry. 17 mod minus 5 is minus 3. The way to understand this is 17 divided by minus 5 is minus 3.4. So that tells me that the quotient is minus 3 and there is some zero point 0.4 remainder, right, which is coming up. So that's why the modulus gives me minus 3, because modulus is nothing but only the quotient without the remainder. So maybe this is the better way to think about modulus when you have negative numbers. Of course, you can also think about it in terms of the usual way. This is just something I do. Again, this is a simple mathematics thing. So again, if you have got this wrong, you can please go and check um, in the check by yourself. Okay. Anyway, next question is about the PIL, which is a image library in Python. Which method in PIL is used to resize an image while maintaining the aspect ratio? Please put your answers in the chat. Okay, someone has put B. Any other answers in the chat? Okay, someone says A. Okay, B. Another B. Okay, maybe we can go to the answer. The answer is actually B. So again, if you have doubts about these kinds of things, I would highly recommend just going to the documentation and just fishing around a bit. So this is like if I just search thumbnail. So you can see that the expression, oh sorry. Yeah, so thumbnail is the here. It makes the image thumbnail version, so you can see that the size is there. It doesn't change the aspect ratio of it. It just makes a smaller version. Okay, so that's the idea. Okay, next question. Okay, which of the following finds all numbers divisible by 3 but not by 5 in a list which is given here, nums? So here this is something where we are using one of the many ways in which Python gives us a lot of flexibility. Okay, fine. Yeah, please give the answer for this one now. Okay, someone says A. Okay, B. Okay, someone else says A. Okay, maybe we can go to the answer. Okay, fine. So most of you said A. A is the correct answer. So here you can see that this is one of the many ways in which Python is very useful. It's not A and B. It's only A, because we don't have to write a for loop, exactly. We can just write it in one line like this. And if we put the brackets, then it automatically returns a list, which is with all of these elements. So you can see that it returns X for X in nums if x mod 3 is equal to 0, which means x is divisible by 3, and x mod 5 not equal to 0, which means it is not divisible by 3, not divisible by 5. So because it's and, that means both of these conditions have to be true. So in all the others, there is some issue. You can see that here it's or, here it's mod 5 not equal to 0. This is or, it's not an and. It has to be both, otherwise it's not correct. Okay? Okay, fine. So this is the answer. Again, if we give something like this, then for example, yeah, list comprehension, exactly, that's what this is called. If you give something like B, then a number which is, divisible by 3, like 15, will still be applicable, even though it should be not divisible by 5, right? Because or means that any one condition has to be true, whereas 15 should definitely not come. So that's why and is important and not or. So remember the truth table, and is only true if both the conditions are true. And that's what we need here. Okay, here's the next question. What is the output of this code? Okay, someone says A. Okay, you can see that many people are saying B now. B. Okay, maybe we can go to the answer. So the answer is actually B. So remember that in any array, no matter what list, string, tuple, whatever it is, in Python the indexing always starts from 0. So here this is the array of 3 levels because it's an array of arrays. So when I give array of 1 comma 1 comma 0, so first of all array of 1 will be the element. This is the zeroth element, this is the first element. So array of 1 is 4 comma 5 comma 6. Then in 4 comma 5 comma 6 I need array of 1 of 1. So this is the zeroth element of array of 1 and this is the first element of array of 1. So I am only looking at 5 comma 6. Now I need to look at the zeroth element of 5 comma 6, which is just 5. So that's why the answer is 5. Okay, so this is again very simple question with to do with indexing. So it's just important to remember that in Python things start from 0 and not 1. Okay, I don't think there's any doubts in this. So let's go to the next question. Okay, so here axis is blurred out, and the question is that for which value of axis the output is 579 in the below code. Okay, someone says B. Okay, B, A, D. Okay, I can see a lot of people giving all kinds of answers. Okay, someone says A. Okay, okay. Can see that people are saying A and B. So we can go to the answer. The answer is actually A. So whenever you have numpy.sum, so again, we can quickly look at the documentation itself for the best explanation. But basically numpy.sum sums the array elements of the array. When you have a 2D array like this, we have to sum about some particular axis. For example, we can sum like 1 plus 4, 2 plus 5, 3 plus 6, right? And that is what is being done here. That is the axis 0. So you can verify that here also by just give the code. You can see that if I give axis of 0, oh sorry, yeah, I get 5, 7, 9. If I give in the same case axis of 1, I get 6 and 15. How am I getting that? Because if I give axis of 1, what it's actually doing is it's doing 1 plus 2 plus 3, which is 6, 4 plus 5 plus 6, which is 15. Right? So you can sum up the elements in different ways. So axis of 0 just means that it's summing across each of the columns like this, and axis of 1 means it's summing each row together. Okay, axis of 0 sums up the elements, the same elements of different rows. Axis of 1 sums up all the elements of the same row. So that is the difference. Okay, next question. What is the shape of the resulting numpy array? Okay, someone says A. Any other answers? I don't see anyone else. Any other answers? Someone says D. Yeah, I can see another A. Anyone else? Okay, we can just go to the answer maybe. Okay, I can see one more A. So the answer is A. Very good. So here NP dot dot, this is basically a dot multiplication that happens, and it depends on what kind of thing you give. You just give 1D arrays, then that just calculates what is known as a scalar product, which you are familiar with in mathematics. But if you give two matrices, then this will compute matrix multiplication. You know that in matrix multiplication, you multiply two matrices of length m, L comma m and m comma n, and the resulting matrix will be something like L comma n. So that's exactly what's done here. 3 comma 4 is multiplied by 4 comma 2. These are of course the number of rows, number of columns, number of rows, number of columns. Here we can do the matrix multiplication because the number of columns in the first matrix is equal to the number of rows of the second matrix. If any of this is unfamiliar to you, this is from basic mathematics. It really has nothing to do with Python. Just look up matrix multiplication, and the resulting matrix will have a shape of 3 comma 2. So shape means nothing but what is the dimension of the matrix. Yeah, exactly what Akhil has written in the chat. Okay, fine. So with that, we are ending the NCQ part. So we can go to the programming assignments. So as usual, I'll give you some like 10 or 15 minutes to do the program. I can see that there are 10, 15 people in the chat as well. So please, all of you try the programs. As I keep on saying, you're reaching the end of your course. And it's a very good idea if you can, to really test yourself as to how you stand in the course is to try to write programs on your own. It's okay if you make mistakes. That's why we are having these classes in the first place. But please give it a try. Otherwise, only when you give it a try, you will get all these doubts about how to solve a program. Okay. So let's go to the first question. Okay. Emma is a budding software developer working on a signal detection system. One day, her mentor gives her a special list called nums. The list contains two types of signals, one which represents a strong signal and zero which represents a weak signal. Emma's task is to find out the longest streak of consecutive strong signals in the list. And here strong signal means 1. which will help her identify the best time period for stable communication. Can you help Emma write a Python function that takes the list nums as input and returns the maximum number of consecutive strong signals in the list? So it's a very simple task. What you have to do is you have a list which has two kinds of elements. One is 0 and one is 1. The ones are strong signal, 0 is weak signal. We need to find the longest streak of consecutive ones. So like 0, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. That's a consecutive one, right? Where no 0 comes in between. What is the longest such streak? And that can be used for some other application. So this is the question. I'll give you maybe 10 minutes. It's 7:05 now. Let's discuss the answer at 7:15. People who have solved before then, please don't share your answer in the chat. Let's share it at 7:15 so that everyone gets a chance to do the question for themselves. And then I'll discuss the answer also. Okay? So I'll give you 10 minutes to do this question. I think it's a simple question and you should be able to do it quickly. Let me give you 10 minutes. Oh, sorry. Sorry about it. Thanks. I accidentally hit my Has anyone got the solution to this question? Anyone has tried and got the solution? Okay, good. Okay, I can see that someone has posted the solution in the chat. Someone else also has got the solution. Very good. So maybe we can discuss the solution now together. So let me just go to my. So just okay. Okay. So here the question is simple. As I said, we want to find the maximum consecutive ones in a string or in a list, for example. Let's say list, not string. So you can see that we have a maximum count and a current count. So what we're going to do is for signal in nums, which means we are just taking every element in the list or the string or whatever it is. And if the signal is 1, then the current count is added to 1 and then we increase the maximum count. So we are keeping count of how many times 1 is coming. The moment that signal becomes 0, then the current count is 0. So we are resetting the current count whenever we encounter 0. So in this way, whenever we get a string of ones, we keep updating the current count and we keep checking if that is greater than the maximum count we have had so far. And whenever we immediately, if a zero is encountered, then we reset the current count to zero. So it's like we are setting it to zero. So finally, the variable maximum count is going to have what is the maximum number of ones that are present in the system. So this is a very simple program. As I said, the only thing to keep in mind is that, whenever zero comes, you have to reset the counter. We can't just keep counting from the before part. So if I, for example, let's run this. If I just give a signal which is like 1 comma 1 comma 1 and then a 0 and then 1 0 1, then maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then you can see that the longest string is 5 consecutive ones. Here we have 3 consecutive ones and here we don't have consecutive ones, right? So if I just give this, you can see that the program returns 5 because 5 is the consecutive one. So here when it's counting, the current count will be 3 and then immediately if it encounters a 0, the current count goes to 0 and it resets. Whereas if, and then, the maximum count is whatever is the maximum of the whichever count we have taken. Okay, so this is a simple program. Any doubts in this program? Okay, I can see that someone else has also got the solution. Yeah, basically you have called it a streak or a count or something like that, but we basically need a running variable to keep count, and then we need to always compare it with what is the maximum count we have got so far. Okay, good to those people who have got the solution. Very good. Any doubts in this question? Okay, if no doubts, let's go to the next question in our uh, programming assignment. So next question is, in the ancient land of Lexiconia, hidden messages are locked behind a common magical prefix. Only those who can decipher the longest common prefix will unveil the wisdom of the lost text. Your task is to create a function that accepts a list of words and finds the longest common prefix in those words and print the result. So it accepts a list of strings as input, returns the longest common prefix among all the strings. If there is no common prefix, you have to return an empty string. So what does prefix mean? It just means the beginning letters of a string. So here are some examples. So for example, in the string where we have interview, interval, internet, and integral, you can see that INTE is common to all the words. So that's why the output will be INTE. Whereas in this case, where it is a dog, cat, animal, monkey, you can see that there is no starting which is applicable to all of them. So that's why it returns an empty string. Similarly, in Apple application upload, APPL is the common. Apple apricot apartment, it's AP, which is common. So again, it has to be common to all the words which are present in the list. Banana, band, banner, you can see BAN is common. Home, honey, horse, you can see HO is common. So our idea is to look at all the words and see what is the longest common letters in the beginning of every word that is repeated in the list of strings. Okay. Any doubts in this question? If not, If you have any doubts, please let me know. If not, I'll give you again maybe 10 minutes to solve this. Let's discuss at 7:30. Again, you get the answer. Let's not put it in the chat. Let's wait for everyone to give it a shot and then we can discuss it together. Okay? And again, everyone please try. As I said, you're reaching the end of the course. And this is the time where you can actually check if you are able to write programs on your own. By now, you should be comfortable to write simple programs like this. Okay? Again, no problem if you make a mistake. That's why we are learning here. So please try it out and let's discuss at 7:30. Okay, so has anyone got the answer for this question? Anyone who's tried and got the answer for this question, please put it in the chat. Okay, no issues. Oh, please give 5 minutes more. Yeah, yeah, sure, sure, sure. Can try out and then I'll discuss. Okay, I hope you've got the answer. Um, Maybe we can go to the answer. In case you've not got it, please you can keep on trying, but just so that we can finish it. If anyone else has got the answer, you can please put it in the chat. But in the meantime, I will share my solution. So again, just to recap, this question is about finding the longest common prefix or starting letters that are present in a list of strings. So for example, in interview, interval, internet, and integral, it is INTE, which is the common string. Is there a question? If there's a question, please put it in the chat. Uh, yeah, okay, fine. So let's look at how to do the solution. So here you can see that, okay. So first of all, if there is no strings in the thing, then we can just return no. So we first start with the first string as the prefix. So whatever is the string of 0, that is what we are going to. So for example, in this example, interview, interval, internet, and integral, interview will be taken as the prefix. And then for S in the next one, right? For any of the elements in the next string onwards, if while not starts with. So starts with is a function where I can just show you. So starts with checks if a string starts with a particular substring. It returns true if the string starts with it and false otherwise. So first we are just checking with the entire string itself, right? And then after that we are checking with we just remove one letter of the prefix. Okay, so until we get what the same starting thing for all of them. So for example, if we try interview, then obviously interview will not be matching with all of them, right? So then we'll remove W, then we'll check intervie, that is also not matching. Then we'll try with inter, like that we'll try until inter v, for example. That will match with this one, right? So so then the first two will have the common of interv. Then what we have to do is then we have to again compare that with the next element and so on. And then in that case, you'll find that V is also not common. So we have to remove V. Then you'll find that only I and TER is common. Then when we compare with the last one, we'll find that we have to remove R also. So that is what exactly this prefix is equal to prefix up to -1. It just removes the last letter. So I'll just mention that here. So, right? And then if there is no prefix at all, that means that nothing was in common. We had to remove all the letters, then we'll just return an empty string. That is what happened in, for example, the second condition where you can see that dog, cat, animal, monkey didn't have anything in common. Okay, someone has given the, also given the solution in the chat. So something similar that they have also done, where you can see that prefix is equal to prefix of -1. That means that we are removing the last letter. So first because we want to find the longest possible prefix, what we do is we first itself start with the entire word, and then we remove letter by letter to see what is the longest possible string we can maintain while still having the prefix. So here you can see that we are entering the elements of the list separated by space, and we can do it. So let's just try this now. So it was interview, interval, integral, for example. You can see that INTE is the common one. Similarly, if I give apple, banana, chips, you can see that nothing is common. So if you take apple and then you remove letter by letter, you will find that none of them are common with the others. So that is why none of it is common. So again, this is the most important part, which is that we are removing the last letter and then comparing. And then you also need to know the starts with function. So in Python, there are a lot of these starts. Okay. Someone says to explain the program again. Okay. So what we'll do is we want to find the longest possible prefix, right? So let's assume that interview, the entire word itself is repeated everywhere. So first itself, we assume that the entire string, first string is the prefix. So in this example, for example, interview, interval, internet, integral, interview itself is assumed as the prefix. Then what you do is for the string for the strings from next one onwards. So we are comparing with the next words onwards, right? ST, remember, ST is a list of strings. ST is not just a string, it's a list of strings. So we start with now the second string. Remember that indexing starts with 0. So when I give 1, that means that I'm starting with the second string. And if I find that the second string does not satisfy starts with, then what I do is I try to remove the last element of the letter of the thing. So for example, I compare interview and interval, and I find that this is not starting with interview, right? So whenever I find that it's not satisfying, I remove the last letter whenever the prefix doesn't match. So I'm just removing the last letter alone because I want to maintain as big of a word as possible. So for example, when interview and interval don't match, I just remove W, and then I compare with intervie, right? It still doesn't satisfy. So then I remove E and I compare with intervi. It still doesn't satisfy, so it compares with interv. Now, interv is okay for both of them, right? So now the prefix is now interv. But then now I have to compare the prefix is interv. I have to compare with the next element in the list, which is internet. And in internet, interv does not satisfy. So again, I have to remove one letter. So it gives me inter. Then again, if I compare with this, again, inter is not satisfying. So I have to again remove a letter and I have to get inte. Okay, so this is the idea. So the main thing is that in every prefix, whenever a prefix is not satisfied, I just remove the last letter so that by letter I can see. And of course, if there is nothing common, then I will just remove all the letters and I'll get an empty string, right? So that's why this if not prefix, it just returns an empty string because at that point I just have an empty string. So here this starts with is a very useful string function that helps us to check if a particular string starts with a particular subset of characters. Okay. Okay, good. I think that is understandable. So I actually have three more programs, but let's do one more because the next one is also kind of a different kind of program. Other two programs, as usual, I will share with you and you can check it. So because it's 7:42, let's do one more program and end the class for today. As usual, all the programs and their solutions will be shared. Even the ones we didn't discuss will be shared in the Google Drive. So if you have any questions about, I think the last two programs are somewhat simpler than the others, so you can understand it. So let's try to do this program and end. And if you have doubts in the programs we didn't discuss, please feel free to mail me. Okay. So this is a question. Once upon a time in the land of Isomorphia, there were two ancient scrolls written in two different languages. The wise king of Isomorphia wanted to know if these scrolls convey the same message or if they are different. So we have to do an isomorphic translation. The challenge is to determine if every symbol in the first scroll can be mapped to exactly one symbol in the second scroll. So it's kind of like your ciphers and substitutions that you had learned a few classes ago. You have to just check if the mapping between one word and the other word, or one scroll and the other scroll, is actually one to one. Okay, and also the order has to be preserved. So when two words are mapped to each other in a one-to-one fashion, keeping the order preserved, that's called an isomorphism. So it's a difficult to explain in words, so I'll show you through some examples. So here, for example, you can see that the input is egg and and. These are both isomorphic because if I replace E with A, then I can get A. And if I if I replace if I replace E with A and G with D at the same time, then I can get immediately that all the characters in S can be replaced to get T. So if this is S, this is T, all the characters in S can be replaced to get T. For on the other hand, if I have something like apple and this string BBNBN, then you can see that A is replaced by B, P is replaced also by B. So again, it's not a one-to-one mapping, right? Because if I replace A with B, then P cannot be replaced by B. At the same time, you can see that both the P's in Apple are replaced by two different letters here. Like P is replaced by B in one instant and P is replaced by N in another instance. So this shows that the mapping is not one-to-one. And this tells me that this is not an isomorphic pairing. Okay. So the idea is that I have to check whether this kind of simple replacement is possible or not. If the replacement is possible, it's isomorphic and we can give it as a true. Oh, sorry. So this is the program. Does everyone understand the program? This is a little different. So let's try doing this program and then we can end the class. So I'll give you 10 minutes. 7:55 we can discuss. Okay, any answers from any of you? Okay, I'll give few more minutes. Maybe in 5 minutes we can discuss. Okay, since we are almost at time, let me just discuss the solution. If any of you have got the solution, feel free to put it in the chat, but I will just discuss the solution so we can end on time. So, yeah. So here, this is a function which checks if two words S and T are isomorphic. So again, if it's isomorphic, that means that there is a one-to-one substitution that we can do to go from one word to other. For example, in egg and add, I can just replace E with A and G with D and I immediately get a substitution. Whereas in apple and this word, we cannot get a one-to-one substitution because you can see that both of the two P's are mapped to two different letters. So it has to be replaced in the same order and then only we can call it an isomorphic substitution. Okay. So let's see if this is how to do that. So first of all, the basic idea is that if the length of the two words are different, then definitely it's not isomorphic, right? Because if length of one is giving as something and length of two is giving something else, then we know that they both cannot be one-to-one mapped to each other. So we can immediately return false. Now we define two of these sets called SMAP and TMAP. And what we are actually doing, sorry, dictionary called SMAP and TMAP. And what we actually do is that we check for each of the characters in S and T and each of them. And if it is already in SMAP, SMAP is basically how S is mapped to T and TMAP is how T is mapped to S. So this is the condition that tells us that whether that character is already in the SMAP And that tells me that, suppose for example in egg and add, if the first G is already added to the map, then I know that if I get G again, that should be giving D. It should not be giving any other letter. Like for example here, P is giving B, but the second P is giving something else. So that's what this condition is telling. If the character is already in S map, but it is giving some other character in T when compared to the original S map, or vice versa when we check in the other case, then we have to return false. Otherwise, just add in the character with the character of T. So you can see that these are two dictionaries where each of the letters is the dictionary's key is the letter in the first word, and the value is what the letter is replaced with in the second word. So for example, when we run it for egg and add, the dictionary will be like E will be the key and A will be the value, G will be the key, D will be the value, and so on. And here what we are actually doing is checking if all the keys have the same values. If two keys are having two different value, that tells me that the same letter is mapped to two different letters, and that's why false comes. So that's what this condition does. So it's a very simple program. There are two ways in which the isomorphism can fail. One is, of course, if the length is different. The other is if any of the maps are different, right? So that's why we use this dictionary to keep track of the key value pairs, so that we can check that always the same key and the same value pair occur together. Okay. So again, we can check here with egg and add. You can see that it is true. But if I give two random words like how they gave, like BB and BM, then it is false. So this is how the isomorphism works. Any doubts in this question? Okay. If not, I think we are reaching the end of the class. It's already close to 8. I'll just, as usual, just share my links again. So again, this class I had planned to discuss 5 programs, but I don't want to take extra time, so I won't. So all the extra programs will be there in the slides. Please go and check it. And of course, in my Google Drive, I maintain the links to all the program solutions. But I highly encourage you guys to first try the program yourself and then look at the solution if you're stuck. It's always good to, even if you understand a program, even after understanding, trying to write the program from scratch is a very good practice. So try doing that. Of course, as usual, the video recording will be also available on YouTube. So if any of you have missed any class for any reason, you can go and watch the YouTube recording as well. Okay. If there are no other comments or questions, we can end the class for today. Okay, then fine. Thank you so much for joining again. I'll see you next week at our usual time on Monday from 6 to 8. Okay. And thanks a lot. Have a nice rest of your week.